YouTube vinyl community, Beach Boys fans, random people on the internet, my name is Giggens, and we are here today to talk about the Beach Boys' 1968 album, Friends, released on Capitol Records. This is absolutely one of my favorite Beach Boys albums. I get asked pretty often what my favorite one would be, and while I don't think I can ever choose this would be one of them. Top three, most likely. I'm not going to say if it's my absolute favorite, but it's definitely really high up there. This album holds a special place in their canon of work because it's very unique, it's very special. There's a charm and a magic that this album has that a lot of their other ones don't have. And I'm going to go into that in this, what's going to be probably a really long video. So let's just jump right into it, which is one of my least favorite things to say in a YouTube video. Because then you have to cue that cheesy music like everybody bloody does in these stupid videos. I'm not doing that. This album dates back to at least December 1967, where the guys were playing a benefit concert for UNICEF in Paris, France. They did 3 songs for that show: Barbara Ann, God Only Knows, and Oh Come All Ye Faithful, which had Bruce on like this big piano organ and the guys around him. And it's really cool to see that video. Also, Bruce has a mustache in there, which is pretty rockin' mustache. But that night is when they met the Maharishi, and right after that show, Mike had flown to London to get ready for the next show. The other guys had stayed behind to hang out with Maharishi. Dennis called up Mike and said, "Hey man, you gotta come back. Like, we just met this guy. He's really far out. He's pretty cool. I think you would dig him." So Mike came back. They met the Maharishi, and that was it. Mike especially, but the rest of the guys too, all fell head over heels for this guy and his transcendental meditation, just this, awareness of yourself and being able to reach peace and calmness and have this far out feeling without being on drugs, which, at that time everyone was doing. So they were really attracted to that idea, and especially Mike, who has, since hung on to it since 1967. He still practices TM to this day, which I think is awesome. So, kind of in a month by month analysis of how this album and the world around it happened, because 1968 was one of the worst commercial periods for this band in America. One of their lowest selling periods, concerts that had to get canceled, tours that didn't work out, money lost. They were a band completely disassociated with what was happening in modern rock music at that time. Bands like Cream and Jimi Hendrix and very early Led Zeppelin, and even the Beatles to a certain degree still, were like really taking off. I mean, the Who was exploding. 68 was one of their slightly weaker years too, but the Beach Boys putting out a album of breezy tracks that are all really happy had nothing to do with like the riots and the assassinations and terrible things happening on college campuses. I mean, it was a rough year. But let's kind of start at the beginning. So in February of 1968, by this point they'd all been bitten by the TM bug and the Maharishi and everything. So Mike so much went over to India to hang out with the Beatles and Marianne Faithfull and Donovan to learn transcendental meditation and hang out there for a while and just really get into it. Mike has famously gone on to say, and the Beatles have gone on to say, that Mike influenced the middle eight part of back in the USSR. Ukraine girls really knocked me out, they leave the rest behind. That was Mike, which is pretty cool. And on Mike's birthday, the Beatles, who were over there, actually recorded a Happy Birthday Mike Love song, which is on YouTube, and it's kind of fun to listen to. So he had a great time over there, and as he was over there, the other guys back home in the States, using Brian's studio and a studio called ID Sound Studio, got together to start making the tracks that would become the Friends album. And one of the first songs they did was When a Man Needs a Woman in February of '68. They also did a couple of songs called You're As Cool As Can Be and one called I'm Confessin'. As far as I know, neither of which have been released. And during this time, when after Mike came back, they started doing small tours with Buffalo Springfield and the Strawberry Alarm Clock. So this was kind of happening. Brian and the guys are writing songs together. Not just Brian on his own, but a lot of Brian and Al, and then a lot of group collaborations too. Like some of the songs on this album are credited to all of them except for Bruce, which is pretty cool. A lot of session musicians are on this album. You know, Jim Gordon on drums, Lyle Ritz plays a lot of the bass on this album. So it wasn't just the guys again. They were starting to incorporate some more studio musicians as they had done, you know, previously. But still a lot of the actual band on this album too. In March, they cut Be Here in the Morning. They also cut Friends, and they also cut a song called Our Happy Home, or Our New Home. You know, they changed the title a couple of times, which is an instrumental. Passing By was a song they wrote at this time, which also had words originally, which was just a couple of lines, but became instrumental on the album. Busy Doing Nothing was done at this point, which was originally called Even Stevens, or Even Time, and also Wake the World, which was Brian and Al's first song they wrote together. So at this point, they had a handful of tracks down. You know, Mike was back in the fold, and they were getting the vocals down. And they said, you know what, we're going to go on tour for a little bit. So in April, they started an 18-date, 33-show tour with a horn section, keyboards, percussion, kind of a big group act. Having come off most of '67 being almost just the Beach Boys. But then they started to use some other people in the live group, which is great. Sounded really good, too. You know, during this time, they also knocked off Meant for You, which was originally called You'll Find It Too, which is a line from the song. Annalie the Healer, which Mike had written back in India, and Transcendental Meditation, the last song on the album. But as this tour is starting, Martin Luther King Jr. is assassinated in early April. And so they canceled the tour because there was a lot of rioting going on. There were curfews about being out at a certain time. And there was all kinds of confusion as to what was happening with the world, basically. And so, to stay safe and to keep everybody sort of peaceful, a lot of shows got canceled. A whole lot of bands had trouble getting around, and the whole country was in a state of shock as to what was happening. So they stopped the tour. In April of that year, in '68, so only a month later, they put out the Friends single, which had Little Bird as the B-side, and that hit number 47 in the U.S., which was a pretty crappy showing for them, seeing as how Darlin' reached the top 20 in one album before, and only a few months before, because it was released as a single, I think, in early '68 or very late '67, so it wasn't even that old of a song before this new one came out, and that just did not do anything on the charts. Also in April, they did Diamond Head and Be Still, and then they started to pick up some more of the tour dates that were canceled by the end of that. In May, this is a fun fact, in May, How She Boogalooed It from Wild Honey hit number 10 in Sweden. So, hey, alright, good job, How She Boogalooed It. The Friends singles were released in the UK on May 2nd, and at this point, Mike, having been so enamored with the Maharishi, was like, you know what, we need to do something with this guy. We need to either make a movie about him or promote him somehow in America and show him off. Well, the whole movie idea got nixed because something in England was going on, and this company called 4-Star was trying to make a documentary about him. So the Beach Boys were like, all right, well, let's not do that. And Mike came up with this idea of having Maharishi tour with them, where they would do this tour where Maharishi would open and like give a lecture, then the Beach Boys would come on after. And everyone was like, this is not going to work. This is not going to be a good idea. Mike was like, no, let's do it. Let's give it a shot. They were all right. It did not work. It was not a good idea. And they lost a ton of money having to cancel this damn tour. And the thing is, like, you know, people were like, why don't you just go on the rest of the tour without him? And they were like, no, this is part of, like, the package deal. Like, we're trying to, like, do this as a thing. And, I mean, some of the shows of the tour got billed as the most exciting event of the decade or something. And it's like, looking back at it now, I mean, yeah, people were heckling the Maharishi when he was doing his lectures, and he would just laugh and giggle, you know, because he was kind of a happy dude, but a lot of people think, hey, he got paid, so he can just sit there and talk about nonsense or whatever, and people will laugh at him, and he won't care, he got paid. Around this time, because they had to start canceling shows, I mean, the audiences just were not showing up anymore. Just like overnight, they just weren't selling shows anymore. There's a really famous story about the May 4th Singer Bowl show in Flushing, New York, where 800 people showed up. It could fit like, I don't know, 2,000, 3,000 people. But 800 people showed up, and so they canceled it. And then a few hours later, they went to Pennsylvania, where 1,800 people showed up. So that was a better showing. But yeah, on May 6th, they canceled that tour. So the Maharishi can go back and make his movie with 4-Star. And Beach Boys decided not to tour without him. By this point, with all the canceled tour dates and everything else, they'd lost almost $500,000, which then was a lot of money, but now it'd be probably, I don't know, a few million anyway, which is a substantial amount of money, especially for a band that's not selling records right now. Al famously said that if anyone's going to benefit from this tour, it'll be the florists, because there were just flowers everywhere. This album, while I love this album, this is the year that it was created, was so hard for the guys, hard for selling albums. I mean, this was also the same year that the Capitol Records put out Best of the Beach Boys Volume 3, which featured Frosty the Snowman. Alright, you would really want to sell those greatest hits albums. Let's put Frosty the friggin' Snowman on there. And they also put out Stack of Tracks, instrumental versions of Beach Boys songs. A band known for their vocal abilities stripped that all away and just made their instrumental songs, with a book of the lyrics and the chord progressions to play it on the guitar or the piano. Guess who bought it? Basically nobody. It's very hard to find. I still don't have a copy of that thing. I really want one someday. So, this is just not the best performing time for them. Friends peaked at number 126 on the charts, which is abysmal. It was a terrible showing, which is why Capitol was like, alright, we'll put out Beach Boys Volume 3. Let's get this out there. Let's sell something. We're getting scared. And the Friends single, hit like number 47, which really wasn't that good either. And that was the only single from this album in America. So, it's, I love this album, and I also love reading about fascinating aspects of their career like this, because it hadn't, gone down yet, like it would have in the 70s when things got really bad. But, things were starting to get a little troublesome. There's rumors that in the summer of 68 or late in 68, Brian either admitted himself into a hospital for psychiatric treatment or was put into a hospital. There's no definitive answer about that from anybody I can find. So, the other guys were writing way more. Dennis emerges on this album and makes a fantastic showcase for his talents. The group as a whole made an album. And while you can say that about Smiling Smile and Wild Honey, I feel like the Friends album really is the Beach Boys together, everybody writing with each other, and making some of the sunniest, breeziest pop music I've ever heard. So with that, let's jump into a track-by-track thing. The album opens with a track called Meant For You, which until 2013 was only this 38-second long track, and then magically, there's more to it on that Made in California box set. There's a whole song surrounding it. It's a long song. But this song on its own, just for the 38 seconds, is so... it's so beautiful, because you get such a delicate side of Mike's voice. And I've said this before on numerous videos, but when Mike just sings and doesn't put on his Mike Love thing, he has an awesome voice. Very underrated voice. So, it opens with this really church-like organ, a really slow kind of fade in with the organ, and then Mike's voice comes in, and he allows his voice to even crack a couple of times, which gives it such a vulnerable, stark, naked approach that really sets his vocals apart from anything else he had done before. For a guy that was so worried about making things commercial and sound beautiful in a pop sense, for him to allow a couple of moments of vulnerability in his voice is, I think, an aspect of his character that doesn't get seen too often on his recorded output. But, he does that, and then the group comes in to join him on the fade out, and then disappears into Friends. And this is one of the most... This song sets the scene for the rest of the album, and the fact that it's got such a nice bouncing bass line, really cool xylophone playing underneath it, and tons of harmonicas. There's bass harmonicas, there's all kinds of harmonicas on the song. And the group delivers one of its most complex harmonies to date. The Friends harmony, that middle part where I'm not even going to attempt to sing it, is so insanely complex, but sounds so ridiculously easy, which is one of those perfect Beach Boys things, where they can make something sound so smooth and simple, but it's actually really difficult to pull off. Kind of like the Cars. The Cars sound like a simple band, but there's more going on underneath that. The the really hopeful, warm, loving melodies of this song they feel like a good hoodie or a nice sweater or a cup of tea or something. It's a very warm feeling, and it creates a very nostalgic tone. And the words keep it kind of slightly psychedelic. Talking your folks out of getting your hair cut or whatever. So it keeps it slightly modern, but it's definitely a reminiscing type song about what we've been through, what we're going through, what we will go through forever as friends. Carl's lead is just very, very smooth and very chill and confident, and the group vocals on this song are just absolutely fantastic, and I think that was the best choice to use this as the title song for the album. Fantastic choice. Wake the World is the next song, and it opens up with this really eerie nighttime feeling. You can imagine the stars in the sky, and the moon is out, and you can see the shadows in the grass, and it's got that very cold atmosphere. One by one the stars appear. You're like, oh man, it's nighttime. But then all of a sudden you hear the shades draw. Literally there's a sound of someone drawing the shades, and oh hey, there's sun out there. Oh, it's morning. Great. And then it becomes this Kellogg's Cornflakes jingle, this really happy tuba bounces in the background, and you can imagine someone just looking outside the window being like, hell yeah, it's the morning, this is great, I can't wait to go for a walk and say hi to my neighbors and pet a dog, it's got that feeling. I think Brian's vocals on this song are really chilling. He's got some good high moments in this track, and his vocals where he's by himself doing the one by one stars appear is, I think, one of the best moments vocally of his career. There's something just so natural about it that I really enjoy. Be Here in the Morning has to be one of Brian's highest vocals ever in his falsetto. He hits some points on this song that I don't think he's hit on any other Beach Boys song, and it's really cool. Murray Wilson joins in on the chorus of this. I'm pretty sure during the bass parts, the whole part, I think he does that with the other guys. There's really cool off-time drumming on this. That whole moment is very trippy. Kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's kind of its own little beat, which is it makes for an impacting, really impactful moment, I think. The church bells give it a cool, grandiose, but homely kind of vibe. And Dennis and the ukulele at the end, just his voice on top of that ukulele is very cool. And I feel like highlighting his vocal there is excellent because it's going to give you an idea of what's coming up on side 2 with his actual songs. When a Man Needs a Woman, Brian sings this song about his upcoming baby boy. That's awkward because he had 2 girls, but it's a really sunny track with jangly guitars that pick along over a really lighthearted, almost circus organ, like a merry-go-round sounding organ. It creates this playful vibe. The background vocals are really understated and kind of let Brian take over the forefront of the song. But Brian sounds just so engaged and locked in on this song. I mean, on this whole album as a whole, but on this song there's a connection that he has to this song that I really find interesting. And then the album, side 1 ends with a song called Passing By, which is an instrumental, like I said before. There were words written for it, but they, at the last minute, decided to nix them. I just kind of do a harmonizing thing over some of it. I get the impression with this song that I feel like I'm at a swanky 60s, dinner party, and there's some, geeky dude showing off his hi-fi reel-to-reel system, and there's, lots of shag carpet, and, those crazy-looking clocks with, those, spiral things coming off them on the wall, and there's a really classy mini bar, and lots of bobbed haircuts and turtlenecks. So that's kind of what I see on that. But there's a really great bass harmonica on it, which is nice. Yes, I have notes. I wrote a bloody book about this thing. Annalie the Healer starts on side 2. Annalie? Let's say Annalie, because that's how they say it. I love the combination of instruments on this track. Bongos, piano, bass, really soulful background vocals. I've said that a lot, but it's true. This album is full of soulful background vocals. Mike delivers a really pleasant and very dry vocal performance. It almost sounds like he doesn't care, but I kind of like that chill vibe that he's going for with this. That vulnerable kind of thing he's doing. There's a moment where in the line where he says, if you trust her with your will, she'll quickly see. It sounds like he's either caught mid-breath or has just swallowed and had to sing his line, and they left it. And it's very awkward. You can imagine him going, if you trust her with the will. Maybe I'm weird. It's kind of a naughty song, if you think about it. Little Bird, here we go. This is where Denny comes in. This is how it all starts. Yeah, he wrote this with Steve Kalanish. I'm totally butchering that name. And, Brian definitely shines in the whole na-na part, but Dennis's really soulful voice is detailed, enunciated, and clear, really endearing, and it's his young voice. It's not the gruff guy on Pacific Ocean Blue. It's this 23-year-old dude with a really pleasant, dark voice. And apparently the middle bit was a ripoff from Smile, I guess, maybe like Cabin Essence or something. But I don't really see the connection there. I get it, but it's not super there. And apparently because of that, Brian did not receive a writing credit, so Dennis and Steve can get more of a royalty share. But I'm not sure how true that is. Be Still, another Dennis song, and it's very, very good. It's a really naked, tender song. Just his voice and an organ. What a performance. That's all you need. That's all you needed to give. When he says, love will find a way and all that stuff, you just believe what he says. It's just an unbelievable song. So simple, so pure, but so genuine. Busy Doing Nothing is a straight up bossa nova shuffle that will make Sergio Mendes blush. It's so 60s. It's so bordering on almost on Tropicalia. There's that rhythm that moves through the entire song, and Brian's vocals and lyrics on the song are outstanding. It's such a clever song about just his normal routine during the day and then how to get to his house if you know where to start from. Very, very cleverly sung and written. So, also there's crazy bass on that song too. Diamond Head is one of my favorite instrumentals the Beach Boys have ever done. It starts off with that really crazy thunder sound, then the waves roll in on a really pleasant beach, and it's sunny outside, and there's a breeze, and you get that tropical feeling again. There's birds in the background, there's a ukulele being strummed, there's a really Hawaiian-style steel guitar going on. It's a really playful, calm song that you just imagine sitting there with a nice drink in your hand with a book, looking at the waves. Midway through the song, the guitar hits a bit of a minor area, which is cool because then it kind of plays with that territory before coming back, to finish the song as it started with that really playful steel guitar sound. And the last song on the album, Transcendental Meditation, is this really kooky, bouncy, zany kind of a song, written by Brian, Mike, and Al. And it's not my favorite track on the album, but the more I listen to it over the years, the more I have an appreciation for it, and I kind of get it. It kind of has this bombastic, jazzy feel to it, and I can dig it. Not my favorite song, but I can get behind it. So, that was a lot of talking there. So anyway, this album tanked for the Beach Boys, but I think it's absolutely one of the most important recordings they ever did, because whereas Smiley Smile and Wild Honey were definitely Brian and the guys, this feels like the guys. I mean, Brian's definitely got his mark all over this thing, but for the most part, I really feel like this was a group effort with a shared vision. They all were into TM. They all were into writing chill songs at this time and being comfortable and chill and cool. That's what they did. So they made this album. A lot of people knock the cover. I like the album cover. Definitely some of their faces are seen in the clouds. That's definitely Al. That's definitely Carl. That's Denny. That's definitely Brian. That's Bruce. But then that looks like Paul McCartney. Just look at that. It looks like a young Paul McCartney. Maybe that's supposed to be Bruce again. I don't know. And the back cover's great. Nice sunset there. So, if I had to rate this album, I would easily rate this album a 9 out of 10. The only reason why I want to give it a 10 out of 10 is because it's really short. I wish there was at least one more song on it. But it's a strong 9 because every song on it is great. There isn't one bad song on this album, and I never get tired of it. It's one of those albums I could put on and just instantly relax to and listen to and enjoy. And so much so that I own 3 copies of it. So here's some more copies of Friends. I have 2 copies that are originals. One is one has the smaller serifs on the label, and one has the bigger ones, or no serifs rather. Yeah, so this is no serif, and the other one is the serif version, which is a West Coast, East Coast variation. So the 2014 reissue was done very well. It looks exactly like the original. There's no difference at all. It's very well done. So yeah, this has been Friends by the Beach Boys. It's one of my absolute favorite Beach Boys albums of all time, and I cherish this album. It's one of those special albums in the Beach Boys discography that if I was going to make a video about, it had to be detailed and well done, because there was no way I was going to just, toss off some video on the Friends album. People need to hear this album. It needs to be recognized as one of the most important things they ever made, and it's a stepping stone in their career, as every album they made was, but this one is particularly special because it really was one of the last ones Brian was like gung-ho into, in the 60s anyway. 2020 he's not really on that one, and Sunflower he's on a lot of it, but as far as the Capitol albums go, this was kind of his like last hurrah with the guys. So, I absolutely adore this album. 9 out of 10. I can go on and on and on talking about this thing for the next 2 hours, but this video is almost a half hour long, so thank you for sitting here and watching this with me. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about the Friends album. It's one of my personal favorites, and I hope it is for you guys too. So, thank you for watching. My name is Giggens. This has been Album Reviews with the Beach Boys Friends album, 1968. And that's it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, thank you. Goodbye. Not yet. There's the end button. Thanks, guys.